Uh, the Surphaser is a mid-range scanner. It has the range of anywhere from 1 meter to the one we have today, about 7 meters. You need an offset of about 1 meter from wherever, well, about 1/2 meter from wherever you're scanning. And it's able to go around and scan the part, and we can do photo overlay as well with it, not with the scanner, but with another device. And we're going to be going through and showing you how to do the scanning and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen. There it is. Okay. So this is a scanner we got. It's called the Surphaser. This is the 100 HSX SR. SR means short range. So there's short range. There's the IR, which is intermediate range, which is about, unlike this one, it has a 1/2 meter and then 7 meter working range. The IR has about 1 meter to 10 meter range. This is pretty much the extent of the scanner. This is the laser head, a mirror. The laser comes out of here while this is spinning, reflects the laser, and the whole body itself, which is this guy here, goes around and spins. You can run it without any cords. There's a battery pack and then an SD drive. You have your scan, your park, and your abort, and you run everything off of the buttons here. You can also, which I'm doing right now, you have your power cord and your USB, which goes directly in to my computer and runs off their software called Surphaser Express. This is the reverse of it. So you got your connector for the battery that hangs off. It doesn't have a compensator on it, so you can tilt it upside down on an angle, pretty much whatever way you want to do. It scans from both sides as it goes. You can also scan one side, but it's quicker if you scan both. And when you are scanning, because there is that overlap, you want to make sure that you're not pointing the scanner at whatever you're pointing or whatever you're scanning, because you're going to have some overlap. It's not inaccurate, it's just overlap, so you kind of always want to make one of the sides here or here pointing away from the area that you want to scan. This is Surphaser Express. It has a bunch of tabs that you kind of go through and set up your scan. You want to open this and then you turn on the scanner, and it goes through the process of initializing everything. It uses an RPR file, which is just a file that is unique to each individual scanner. It will ask for it when you open it, and then you tell where it is, and it's able to revert back to that from then on out, as long as it's on your desktop. A couple of the things how we can scan. The first tab is scan. You got full volume, so you could just go ahead and scan your whole room. That does collect a lot of data, and most of the times when you're using this thing, you're only scanning a small area, so we wouldn't use that. You can do a section scan if you have it set on an area that's not going to move and you're always scanning the same section. You can do it that way, 0 to 180, and then scan from preview section, which is what we're going to do. This is the area where I was talking about how it can scan from the front, the back, or both speeds up the process. The next step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create your output file. And pretty much what you do is you just go in here and create a folder, and it's going to dump the files back in here. You can name them whatever you want, but what it defaults to is the date of the scan, and then it'll be 001, and it'll go in succession from there. So like you can see, I've already selected it. The way that the scanner works in its scanning is all on lines per degree. So every degree that it moves, you're picking up that many lines. So it's a phase-based scanner. So the closer you get, the more you would assume that the more lines per degree you scan with, the more data you're going to collect. That is actually not the way it is. Because it's a phase-based scanner, the closer you get, and the more scans you get, the phases get disrupted, and the data comes back very messy. The way we scan is usually, we have a little, it is. With the 100 HSX, at a distance of 5 feet, you're going to have a standard deviation from the scanning surface of 0.01 at 23 lines per degree, which is the lowest. And as you can see, it's going to go up a little bit as you get more lines per degree and as you go further away. The point spacing you're going to need to be is what you're more going to be able to be looking at. So like I was saying, you got your lines per degree. It's actually 23 is the lowest. We don't usually go past 50 because the working range of the scanner is about 7 meters. So I mean, you're going to be right around in this range. So for what we have now, I have a plane sitting on a table. It's about 5 feet from the scanner. So I'm going to keep it around 23 lines per degree, which is going to have our point spacing at 0.05 inches. So that would mean that each at 20 or at 5 feet, the point spacing is going to be 0.05 inches apart, and it's going to multiply as it goes on from there. So it doubles every time. Going back to Surf Express. So you can set it up here, or there are also some low and custom adjustments that you can set to where they're always going to be that way when you open it. It will tell you the time that it's going to scan. This is for a full scan. And as you can see, we'll go up to, say, 30. It's going to raise the time on the scans, the number of lines you're going to be collecting. And then the size of your scan is going to be 430 megabytes. And that, again, is for a full scan. Again, like I said, we usually just do a preview scan and then pick what we want to scan to keep down on the file size and speed up the time of the scanning. The next step you're going to want to go to is the processing. Processing is dealing with the back-end stuff when you are done scanning and you want to export the data. This is where it's going to export your files to. These are the types of files that we can do. We can do PTS, XYZ, E57, PTX. PTX is usually the one that we deal with a lot, and that'll be the point cloud that you're going to be using. All of these things are ways that you can adjust how you're scanning. We usually leave them as is and do Z up, unless you're scanning with the scanner upside down. This is what we're going to be using for aligning the data with the targets. I can get into that in a little bit. And then you have all your rest of your parameters and stuff like this. Most of this stuff won't change. It's all stuff that they've set up and you use on a day-to-day basis when you're scanning. Your export filters, you can actually export, you can filter out what the minimum and maximum distance you want to scan if you are doing a full room scan. So you only want everything within 5 feet of the scan, or 5 meters of the scanner. You can create that and it will only export those filters. Markers are another name for target. There's rectangular, circular, and spherical. You can pick them yourself, and in the data that I'll scan in a little bit, it'll show you how it works. But you can also do it, you can search for markers and it'll search for them yourself or on its own and find them. Preview is what the preview scan is. So this is just a quick scan. They'll always do it. You can do a volume scan and then you select your data from there. These are just some little more helpful tools. You can park the position. So if you're only doing a section scan and say you're doing 90 degrees, it's going to stop halfway through the scan every time. Make sure that you can make sure that it always parks the scanner in the 0 position, which is helpful because then your section scan is always going to be the same. We always want to calibrate before scan. Other than that, these are all things that you can change if you want to, but aren't really necessary to change. That being said, does anyone have any questions thus far? Anyone? All right, I'll keep going. So to scan, I already have the scanner set up. We have a thing that we're going to scan. So again, scan from preview, both. I'm going to make sure that my scan is in the same location, and we're going to do 23 lines per degree. You create preview. This area is going to come up, and this is going to show you. It's going to show you in dynamically what you're actually going to scan. So it'll show you guys the whole room that I'm in. So as you can see, we're going to kind of go through. It's scanning on both sides. So this line here and this line here is your 0 and your 180. You don't want this line to cut the data that you're going to be scanning because there is some overlap to help with the fact that you're scanning on both sides. It's just something that you kind of have to get used to when you're scanning. Even scanning for 4 years, every once in a while when you're moving through the process of it, you forget and have to go back and scan. So after it's done doing this, it's going to park the scanner, and then it'll actually spit out another screen for us to use, and that's where we will select the areas that we want to scan. Now you can kind of see that I have some targets set up here. These are just black and white targets. These are 6 inches, and these guys right here are 3 inch. That also is able to find spheres, so 6-inch spheres that we've created. So how it works is you can zoom in, you can pan, scroll. This guy is a box. What you want to do is you want to select the box, and with your left click or your left mouse button, left to right, hold it down and select the targets that you want to scan in. So we're going to scan all these targets in. If you can't find it, you can kind of zoom in. There usually is a scroll down here and one right here if you zoom in. And then we're going to be scanning this plane, and then I'll move the scanner to the other location, the other side, to scan the back side of it. And once we've scanned these targets in, it'll align itself all together automatically, which saves a lot of time in the office. So again, you can select everything that you want. I could select every window if I wanted to, but as of right now, I just need these targets and the plane. And then you have to make sure that you've set your lines per degree before you go into the preview mode, because as you can see, there's nothing I can do to change it. And at this point, we'll just do scan, and it's going to go through, and you'll see exactly the same thing, the scanning as well. This will probably take about a minute and a half. And so the next step will be, after this is done processing and scanning, we'll export the data as a PTX. First we'll find the targets, save the target file, and then export the scan itself as a PTX that we can later use in a modeling program. And then we will move the scan and do everything all over again. So as you can see, it's not going to get any bigger. We're scanning right now, and if I put my hand in front of that plane, you would actually see it show up right now. So a lot of time when you're just kind of sitting and waiting for the scanner to do its thing, a lot of times I like to, on my side of the stuff, walk around and make sure that I have my ideas of where I'm going to be scanning. With the scanner, because it is line of sight scanner, there's areas that you can't see. So as you can see with this, if you can, I'm not going to collect any of the back of this plane. So if we actually were going to be scanning it, for a job, we would have to scan 6 or 8 scans above it and maybe 4 to 5 below it, and going around to get all the angles that you need to collect the whole part of the data. There's some windows in this plane, and the windows, because it's glass, or for this one it's plastic, it does not collect that data, and there's a little bit of messiness behind it, and it's just because the scanner doesn't know how to interpret the data and the refractions of the laser through that. Any questions? All right. Scanning the last target now. So now it's going to go through the process of interpreting the data that we collected. And down here you can see it's telling us pretty much everything that it's doing. This is just pretty much a log file from start to finish of what we're doing. If you get any errors or anything like that when you're scanning, it'll pop up here. So as of right there, this is the 3D data. We don't really need to use that right now. So at this point, we have our data. We're going to go to markers, and you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scan targets. You really want to have no less than 4 targets, just for the off chance that a couple of them aren't able to be acquired. You run the risk of having to manually align it. That kind of runs into the problem of it not being super accurate because you're just picking the points, whereas we're not letting the software define where those targets are because it can understand where the center of this point is. So we're going to search for rectangular markers. It's going to take about 15 seconds. Again, if you scan an entire room with the whole scan, it'll take longer because it's going to have to search through all of that data to find all of the scans. So it looks like we found 6 markers. Usually what'll happen is it'll say that it found like 20 markers found in picture, and then it'll go through and do an improvement is what it's called. And pretty much it's trying to find the center of that target. And so after that, we have 6 targets. And we can see them right here. So they're all improved. Red actually is good. You don't want to see it yellow because yellow means that it's not incredibly satisfied with the accuracy that it thinks that it has on the center point of those targets. So after we've done that, we're going to want to go and we're going to want to save. I'm going to name it base file 2. You can name it whatever you want. Again, it's in the folder with the scans. They're just not going to show up because we're just searching for text files right now. I'm going to save it. Good to go. Now we're going to process it, which is going to take us to this processing tab. And then we're going to export the data. It's going to be as a PTX, so it's got the date and then the scan. Mine says 6 because I've done a couple practice scans while I was waiting. Save. Exports should take about 30 seconds. Again, it all depends on how much data you have in there. One full scan will probably take a minute to a minute and a half to export. After this, we're going to go to new scan, and we're going to go to processing mode, and we are going to select this, the use transformation matrix. So what it's going to do is it's going to constantly look for those targets because the targets I've set up are in a unique pattern. And so when it searches for them, it's going to know where those are, and it's going to know that, okay, after it's aligned to that data, those targets, it's going to know where the data that it's collected from the plane should be aligned to. You want to do this on your second, and not on your first scan, but on every scan past that. And it's going to help to align the data. I'm going to get up right now and move the scanner. All right. I'm back. So now that we have moved the scanner to the next position, I pretty much moved it from one side of the wing to the other so that we can get the other side of the cockpit. We're going to do a preview, and then you'll be able to see where I've moved the scanner to. Scanner's just sitting on a black tripod. It's called a Manfrotto. It's got each leg has two adjustable telescoping areas. So I think this scanner can get up to about 12 feet. It's a pretty tall guy. We use it pretty exclusively with the Surphaser. But then again, you could just throw the scanner on the ground. We've put it on jib booms before, like they use in the movies, to hang it out over, counterweighted jib booms, to hang it out over a hole or something that we needed to scan, or use it to get up over something that you can't see when you're just on the ground. So it's a pretty versatile scanner where it can just set on any tripod, anything like that. So it's just going through the process of processing the data that it's just acquired. Going to give us something we can use. So again, we're going to select the box. Going to go through. You don't have to go in the same order. You just have to go through and make sure you get all four sides of it. And then we're going to scan the plane in. And if I really wanted to, I could, box this in, box the windows in, get everything I wanted to. Another way you can do it is you can just box the whole thing in and go from there. Again, it's all on what you're trying to collect. So we're going to do scan, do the same lines per degree, and let it do its thing. Any questions? After we're done with this, I will show you how to bring it into a program to where you can start manipulating the point cloud data, creating it into meshes, and then exporting as STLs and stuff like that so that you're able to model off of it. There are a couple colors because it is a laser. It has it's on the light spectrum. Dark blues, like a navy blue, the scanner does not like, or really shiny, like chrome or stainless steel. It has trouble, and that's just with the reflectivity of the laser. It doesn't really work all that well. There's ways around it. You can use, we've used like turtle wax on cars before to kind of give it more of a, change the color just by a little bit, and it'll be able to pick it up. Or we also have developing spray that we spray on some of our more shiny parts where the data is just going to get lost from the reflectivity of the laser. And that just is a powder. It sprays on clear, and then when it develops, it turns white. They use it for finding cracks and stuff like that. That's another way you can help the scanner be able to pick up the data when it's either shiny or the dark blue, navy blue that the scanner has trouble with. So it's done scanning. It's going to have to go park itself, and then we'll be able to move forward. Close out of these two guys. And again, go to markers. search markers. If for any reason it doesn't find one of the markers, so it didn't find this guy, we can actually go here, select it, and then you do improve, and it was able to find that marker. So that's another way you can kind of add a target if need be. And if it doesn't find it, or say the target's turned too much, or the angle is bad, or it's just too far away, it'll just say that it failed, and then that target just didn't work. You can go here and you can delete it. So at this point, instead of saving the data, we are going to go and align to the base, and that's the base scan that we created at the beginning. One of the reasons why we create that base scan is that you want to find all the targets in the area that you can, because then if you have, say you have 8 targets in the area and you move to an area that you only have 4, you're not worrying if you're going to be able to align it, because you already have all 8, and then it'll dump it into that base file. So what we do, create the base, find the file, we open. Now this scan is aligned with the previous scan that we did. So we're going to process the data, and this is just going to create it to where it can be it's able to export again. Create a PTX. So at this point, if we were actually doing this scanning for a job, we would move around, keep moving around the scan or around the plane until we were done with it. And then one thing you have to be careful with is you don't want to move the part that you're scanning. There are ways around it to align it if you have to. If say you have to flip it up because you can't get underneath it, but you really want to keep the part that you're scanning stationary and use the scanner itself to move around, because then you're able to use the targets to keep it aligned. So if the scan model doesn't move, it's all right. There's plenty of times where you're going to use a giant casting and you have to flip it to get the other side. There's ways around it. You can use pick points to align the data and stuff like that. But again, you always want to use the targets, because it's not a human that's finding the points. It's an algorithm that has been built into the program. So we're going to open Polyworks, and IM edit. And we're going to go to File, Import Point Cloud. I'm going to go to the scans that we've done. I'm going to bring the 2 in. The scanning parameters that I set were in meters, so you just want to make sure that those are always the same. We're going to do OK. It's going to go through the process of bringing it in. So the way Polyworks works is it has an offset and a minimum offset and a maximum offset. So as you can see, it's not bringing in any data past this red thing or these circles. That you can change here and just adjust. Adjust where the minimum and maximum distance is. As of right now, I have plenty of space in between. So we're going to go create. I could have done the same values for all images and it would have imported both. So after I've imported it, now you can see, the scans itself have now, even though we scan on 2 separate sides, we were able to use the targets to align the data so that now we could possibly start modeling off of this. The digitizer positions are the actual scan positions. So as you can see, there's different areas, and if we had more, you would see all of them. From this point, we would, if this is all we wanted to do, we would cut out all of the bad, all the table and stuff of areas that we didn't want by using spacebar, and then we just drag this along, get everything we don't want. If you do Control-I, it'll invert it. Just push delete. Spacebar again to get rid of it. Again, I'm just kind of trying to show you how to do this. So what we would do now is we would export it as a polygonal mesh and that is going to interpolate the data and create a bunch of triangles in between it, which we can use to model off of. So, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I guess I can kind of show you a couple more ways that we can go through the scanning. So we're going to go new scan. You can also scan into Polyworks, and Polyworks will do the work for you of finding the targets. The way it works is it does the same process. It just takes a little bit longer because it's having to go through Surf Express to align the data. And it works very well if you want to see what you're scanning and in real time. This is just the easiest way to do it because it's in the program from Surphaser, and it's a pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy tool to use. So you pretty much just move from left to right on here, setting everything up. Again, processing stuff. You can even go down to having it beep or not if it's scanning, as if there's a safety precaution for it. And if we were to create a new project, we would want to uncheck this again because we would be creating that matrix, that target matrix again. And so we would want to use that on the second scan we do. Trying to think if there's any other things I can show you. The C3D file is the base file for these scans. And if you exported out a certain area and you didn't want to do that or something like that, you can actually bring that data back in and create it all like you had just scanned it. If you go File, when you're attached to the scanner, you can't do it, which I will just unplug right now. So it's going to yell at me that the scanner's unplugged. So what we can do is we can just load a scan. It's a C3D scan, process it, and then we're pretty much back to where we just got done finished scanning the scan. So the scan just went through, and we can go through and process everything exactly how we want to. Now, when we do that, we lose the targets that we found in the scan before. So say this was the scan we did, the first scan we did. We would lose all the targets, so we'd have to go back through. We would have to create a new base file and then bring the second scan in and then align that one to the base. So if there's something you messed up or the export files, say you accidentally exported everything in between 1 and 2 meters, but everything you really need is outside that 2 meter range. You can come back in here, bring the file in, and re-export it out from the full scan that you have, or say you wanted everything past 3 meters. You could now export everything past 3 meters, even though while you were scanning on site, you exported it out for 1 to 2 meters. So if you mess up on site and you've exported out in a different way, or you cut something out that you don't want, you're able to go back and readjust that. Now, if you've done a scan like we did here, I can't collect data that we didn't scan. So, these windows and stuff, I can't go back and collect that. That's one of the things that's better about taking a full scan, is that you always have all the data. But then again, you're taking a lot more time to collect the data. So it's kind of a toss-up. If you're in a hurry with getting your job done, you need to get in and out, doing the section scan or the preview scan and picking what you want. It's probably the quickest and best way to go. Just having to make sure you're taking your time and being safe or confident in what you're picking up, because you're seeing it as you go, and you can actually be importing it as you're going into Polyworks to see if you have everything. Another good reason to do the full scan there's a camera called the iStar. It's got 4 fisheye lenses, and it takes 360 degrees by 270 degree image. So it just doesn't get the last 90 degrees below it. And we're actually able to take each one of those pixels and map it to each one of the points that we've collected, so that this plane would now be white and green. You know, the table would be the pine color that it is. You'd see all the color that it was. It makes it a little bit more difficult when you have a section scan, because the way that the program works, it has trouble when it doesn't see the whole data or all the data. So it's a really helpful tool too, if you're wanting to try to make something look really lifelike, or you need to collect data, you know, of the surrounding areas and stuff like that. So, but it does HDR images. So it'll take 3 images. It takes 9 images for each one. So it's low light, mid light, and high light, and adjust the average of all 9 of those. So, any questions? All right, I can show you how to scan in Polyworks. So we have a couple tools that we're able to scan in. We have Surf Express, we have Polyworks, and then we have one other program that is able to just dump the data into, and it aligns it on the back end. So we're going to use Polyworks Inspect. We go down here, we make sure the scanner is plugged in. We're going to select the Surphaser, and then we're going to click it again and show that we want to scan. And it's going to go through its process of connecting. It'll take anywhere from 1 minute to 2 minutes. And like I said, Polyworks kind of takes a little bit more time to do things, but again, it's all in one program, able to do it all in here. So the way Polyworks works, we're going to go inches for this one because the point spacing is a little bit different. Now for this, the way that it works is it goes off point spacing, not lines per degree. So again, we're going to revert back to our trusty comparison. And so with the 100 HSX, which we have, the lines per degree we want at 20 feet, or at 20, you know, we want to keep it at the 20 lines per degree. So 5 feet, we want to be 0.052 inches point spacing. So that correlates to this here. So we want to do that. Scanning zone is all of the areas that we want to go with. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Pretty much you want to, if you do ever scan this, you want to kind of leave everything alone. The only thing you want to change is the gap width. What that does is while it's scanning, and say you're scanning up a building or you're scanning out something where there's a part that juts out and has a 90-degree angle, and then the scanner can't see anything behind it, and it hits up another foot up above, it's going to connect those two because it doesn't understand that there's any difference. When you uncheck this, any gaps that it has, they're just going to leave empty. So pretty much same concept, preview scan. It's going to go through and do its thing. The one difference between Polyworks and Surf Express is that if you have something that's very small that you're trying to scan, in Surf Express you can zoom into it, and Polyworks you cannot. So it's going to go through and calibrate itself because that's how we have it set up. It calibrates every time. Just take a minute. All right, here we go. And same concept, it's going to be a dynamic scan. So as it goes, it's going to show you what we're scanning. If you jump in front of it or something like that, you're going to see yourself in there. Okay, so we can go ahead while this is processing, select the data. Same thing, left to right, hold it down. The only difference is you can go back and forth and you can adjust the boxes as you go. You can also left to right, oh, never mind. You can delete the boxes if you want to, just using the delete key. So there's some advantages and disadvantages to both ways of scanning. It kind of ends up depending on what you're more comfortable with. Or if you don't have Polyworks, you can't really scan in Polyworks. So that's another thing. All right, so we got everything we needed to. Move this a little bit this way. So again, you're going to wait for this to stop being grayed out, and you're going to do scan, and it's going to go through the exact same process. The only difference will be is that once it's done, you're going to push confirm, and you will actually see the data that I brought in here that was aligned in here. And then when we move to the next scan, it'll automatically align that data. So your point cloud that you have that we brought in here after we were done exporting it from Surf Express will already be in here. So you're gonna spend a little bit more time with it having to process it on its own, but the time that you spend on doing that, you're going to gain by not having to export it out of Surf Express and then import it back into Polyworks. Although it's not much time, you think you're doing 20, 30 scans and you only have half a day to do it. It kind of depends on the time that you have. And with Polyworks, you don't have to go through the process of doing telling it to find the markers, checking to make sure that it's found them all. Because Polyworks, if it thinks that there's a target there and someone walked in front of it, it'll go back and rescan it. It won't just leave it as nothing and just say you didn't find it, like Surf Express will, which is another helpful tool that Polyworks has. So as you can see, it's kind of moving through. It scans this, it'll scan at the point spacing that we gave it. It'll move quickly to the next one. You scan at the point spacing that we gave it, and then speed up again and scan the area that we want to scan. So you can scan as little or as or as much as you want to scan every time you're doing it. Any questions?
This is Leah. I have a question.
Yep.
Maybe kind of along what you're showing here, but if you say you had a very large room and you were kind of moving your scanner, say, down the long hallway, do you just have to keep 4 of those targets common between the scans?
Correct.
Merge them together?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so this particular scanner probably wouldn't be the best to scan a full building, but yes, if you're moving around an object, you're going to want to make sure that you have at least 4 targets. That's why I said at the beginning when you create your base scan, you want to get every target you have in there you want to make sure that you collect in that first one, because say you have to go down below something and you can't see the 4 targets on the opposite side of the part, but you can see the 4 that you collected at the first scan, it'll still align it.
Okay.
But yes, when you're moving through a building or something like that, you got to make sure that you have at least 4 targets, 4 or 5 targets that are common between the 2 scans.
This is Lee. I have another question.
Okay.
Talking about targets for a room, are you able to make targets like small enough that you could put on a large part and then use that as?
Yeah, so we have small targets that we use for other scanning. I do not know what the smallest targets it will find. I assume I've had some trouble before with the 3-inch targets that I have up now, if they're a further distance away with it collecting it. Usually what we do is they all have like magnet bases, or we also have tripod stands. And so we put it back off of the so that when you are moving around, you're having that space to where you can see them. We also have used like clay. So, for example, I've scanned these castings that we had to flip. And so, you know, they're 15-foot castings, and they had to bring a crane and flip it so that it was the other side. We put clay on them so that we could use those, and that would be a point where you would use the human trying to find the three like spots and then aligning it like that. So yes,
Okay.
you can put them on. Again, it doesn't really find them all that well. I mean, if you put one of the 3-inch targets on there on a mat with a magnet, it'll find it. But then the clay will help, because if it's a part that has a lot of same geometry, say it's a circle with gears or something like that, you're able to use those to create geometry within something that's very symmetrical, to use it to align the data together. So in that aspect, yes, you can, but the scanner itself wouldn't pick it up.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be more of a post-processing thing. And I mean, you can do that in Polyworks. I mean, I could technically take the scans I did and not use any targets and align it. It's just not as accurate to do it that way. Much more human error. So as you can see, it kind of takes a little bit longer to scan in here. But again, you're not having to do anything in alignment. It's able to create it all together. Right now it's processing the scan, so it's giving us the data that we had to import in along with creating the targets for it. Okay. So now we're going to do confirm. Get rid of that. So as you can see, the data is in there. and we can go through and cut some stuff out. So again, it took a little bit more time to process the data, but we're not having to move in between different programs to be able to see the point cloud. I'm going to go and move the scanner, and we'll go to the next scan. All right, so now that we've confirmed it, we're going to do a preview, and we'll go through the same process again. This time, we'll be on the opposite side of the scanner. This is a really helpful tool. It kind of spans the two departments we have. We have the area that has, scans smaller parts. Could you scan the shoe, a casting, something like that, smaller, an actual part of something. Whereas the long range will scan the building that makes those parts. The great thing about the Surphaser is it's actually able to scan all of that stuff with a high level of accuracy in a pretty quick amount of time. So it's a pretty helpful tool to have because we're able to do multiple stuff with it. Whereas using, say, another scanner that's supposed to scan something that's a foot by a foot would take forever to scan something that we would like a building. Whereas the thing that scanner that scans the building isn't going to be as accurate as the scanner that scans the 1 foot by 1 foot part. Whereas this one is accurate on both sides. Again, too, like I said with the C3D files, Polyworks, as it scans, will actually save those files. There's an area, if you go here to the Surphaser software and go to options, it will show you the default location where it can will save those. And again, you can change that and put it in the file that you have for everything else. And again, say you missed something, or you cut some stuff out that you want to actually be able to use, or change the filtering around, you can go and bring that back into Surf Express, import it in, or process it in, and be able to adjust it from there. So that's one of the cool things about Polyworks, is it actually keeps those as well. So you're able to go back and adjust stuff if you need to, or you made a mistake on your exporting or something like that. It's a pretty helpful tool. So you can see this is just a filtering effect. But the data itself is very clean. The lines are very sharp. And there's no, even on this chair right here, you're getting the edges and stuff like that, very clean data, which is super helpful when you're trying to model. This is just a filtering aspect. It's just filtering out that color in Polyworks. Like you saw when we scanned in Surf Express, we were able to collect that. It's just one of the filters that we didn't adjust. So So if we were to go back into Surf Express with a C3D file, we would be able to adjust that. It's just the green color sometimes, if you don't adjust all the filters right, will get affected that way. Almost finished. Does anyone have any more questions? You can always cancel the scan too. Say you realize that your scanner was pointing right at the part that you're scanning. You can cancel it. It'll take a little bit of time, but it'll go back, and then you can just go ahead and redo the scan. The Surf Express is a little bit quicker at canceling the scan, and then as long as you just park the scanner back into that 0 position, like here. So this is a 0 position. So if it's adjusted a little bit or anything like that, you can always make sure that it parks itself into the correct location, which, as you can see, you kind of need to have it in the right position when you put it in the box. So now, since we're waiting, this is the same scanner. This guy right here will screw into the bottom here, and it's able to connect to the tripods. We have a little coupler that goes. These are your batteries and your charger. They last about 2 hours or so, take about the same to charge. So you got to make sure that you always have one charging. This is a USB cable. It's a 10 meter, and you also have a 3 meter. One of the cords goes in right here, and the other one connects to the computer. You got your 3 power cords. This one connects to the scanner. It's just daisy chained in. This is your battery pack, like I showed you on the back here. These are springs, and it connects in. These are your SD cards that you can put in. So say you're in an area where you can't have a lot of cords, or you need to be in and out really quick. You can just do a full scan and go, and then do the processing afterwards. All of our scanners also come with a flash drive with the most recent Surf Express and the RPR file for that scanner. And we also send targets as well, so you're able to do it all. It's a pretty simple box, but yeah, this is all it comes with. There's little fans to keep the thing cool and stuff like that. I think we may be done. All right, so it's done. We're going to confirm. So as you can see, just like the last one, it aligned perfectly in there because we found all the targets, and it was able to know where each scan was. The difference between them is you're not having to export and import files. You're just all doing it in Polyworks. So, does anyone have any more questions? All right, that's all I have.
All right, thanks for sharing today, Jacob.
Yeah, no problem. No one else has anything else? I guess we're all good.
All right, thanks again.
Have a good day.
Good afternoon.
Yep, you too.